Shalom, family. Thank you all for coming. Fair use, fam. Fair use. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel that has blessed us with these instrumentals to listen to. Please make sure you go and subscribe to their channel. Don't forget to say shalom to the family as you enter into the chat. Thank you. Now we're about to go ahead and switch over to what we're going to be talking about today, fam. I want to thank you in advance for coming. Now you hear them say the slaves did almost all the work, but pay attention to the layout of the plantation, fam. Hold on, let me start this over. My bad. Here we go.
Those wheel rims and plowshares were made.
Start over.
Once the residences of southern, a trip. If you've ever been in one of our southern states, you may have taken a sightseeing trip just as this family. A trip to see one of the plantation homes that were built before the Civil War. This beautiful mansion is one of many homesteads that were once the residences of southern planters. These homes were centers of plantation life. Inside the mansion, we can get some idea of the luxuries that a wealthy plantation family enjoyed. The home was often beautifully furnished. Planters imported fine household goods from England. These things represent part of the wealth that came from products grown on the plantation. Here is a map that explains how this plantation was organized. It was almost a little community by itself. Most of the sections of land were devoted to one crop, such as cotton. Other sections contained orchards, vegetable gardens, and pastures, the source of food for the people and the work animals. The buildings included the planter's home, a mill, workshops, and a row of small cabins for the slaves, who did almost all the work. We can still find remnants of some of these things on old plantations. These small houses were for the slaves who worked on the plantation. In this carriage house, the plantation vehicles were kept and repaired. In the blacksmith shop, such things as tools, wheel rims, and plowshares were made. And all of this was done by hand, the hand labor of the slaves.
All of it was done by hand labor of the slave. So let me go back a little bit and show you some of the things our ancestors were able to do. They were able to be blacksmiths, and they did it all. So let's listen. Let's go ahead and listen to it some more.
The hand labor of the slaves. But what made each plantation depend mostly on its own labor and its own products? The answer is poor transportation. There were few roads, and many of them were in poor condition, so there was little commercial traffic between plantations. Travel was so difficult that each plantation was practically isolated, and so had to be almost self-sufficient. The easiest means of travel was by riverboat, and so many plantations were located along the rivers. At the boat landing, manufactured goods from cities could be brought in. Crops grown on the plantation could be sent out. Most plantations raised and shipped only one crop.
Stop this right here. Who do you see helping them? Do you see any of these groups that came out and said that they did it all, or that this is all an excuse and all that? Who do you see out there, fam?
In most plantations near the Mississippi,
Who are those people right there? There's one guy, there's another, but there was many, and there are many now today that's still doing this kind of labor.
one crop was cotton. Cotton was such an important part of the plantation system.
This is what my grandparents did. They picked cotton. And my grandmother had some old cotton from the plantation. She still had it. And I believe she used to keep it inside of her Bible. And the Bible at that time was used as a birth certificate. So you see, who's picking cotton out there? Do you see a smile on this man's face? Do he look happy? Do he look inebriated? Let us go on. Is he making jokes about it? Let us go on. And them pricks on there will prick you. And I'm so glad that my grandmother saved some of that and let us touch it. And I remember one school year, we had a history teacher. I believe her name was Miss Myers. And she brought some cotton to the school. And she taught the youth, the Igbo youth, about the cotton that we used to pick out there on the cotton plantation. Let us go on and listen.
That it came to be called king cotton. The enormous amount of hand labor required to grow and pick the cotton was supplied by great numbers of slaves. This, then, was the economic background of the plantation. Cheap slave labor producing one main crop on vast tracts of land.
So this right here, they talking about when it was sharecropping. Now this came after the 100% free labor. So sharecropping was when they would barely pay you and your children would be starving, didn't have shoes and stuff. And they said that something like this was going on in Africa. They called it apartheid. So you see here, these right here are our ancestors in diaspora out there in the cotton plantation. And it was years and years past, and many of them didn't even know that they were free. They just found the last plantation was somewhere, I believe, in Georgia or Alabama. It was people out there still on the plantation, and that's what I think that movie that Kiki Palmer had did was about that plantation of all of those Igbos, all those Israelites that was on the plantation didn't even know they was free, and she found out that they was free. Let me let you go ahead and listen to some more.
Owned by the planter. But the plantation was more than an economic organization. It was a social organization as well. The planter and his slave.
Let me pause it right here. You see the man on the horse right there? Okay. In prison, there's a guy that ride around on the horse. Just like that. Telling you what to do. He got a badge and he have a shotgun. Have a gun. And he tell you what to do. They could put you in the hot box. A brother said they call it the Cadillac. Now, in that Cadillac, you ain't worrying about no rims. You gonna sit in there if you don't do what they say. They could call you all out your name and everything. Do y'all know what the 13 and the 14 Amendment was all about? Let me go ahead and let this play on. See, 13th Amendment, free labor. And you know they just found a whole bunch of bodies that was out there, a whole bunch of bodies of slaves. All right.
Slaves were part of an unusual class system. The sharp division of people into two main groups, the owners and the slaves, left a lasting influence on the society of the South. What was that society like? For the plantation owner and
Look who's sitting up on the stairs. Do you see the Negro sitting on the stairs being lazy? And if you ever see a Negro back in them days riding on a horse, he was the slave to make sure everybody was in line. Let's go on.
his family, it was an aristocratic kind of society. Gentle manners, courtesy, hospitality. Many of the ideas that we still associate with the people of the South came from the days when plantation life was in full flower. This, then, was the social organization of the plantation. The aristocratic class of the landowners who had wealth and privileges.
You see him? That when they were speaking like that, look who they got up there showing who the nice person. Now, when you see out there on that cotton plantation, so you see this is so that they can look good before the world. Now, you look all the way out there in that field. You see all them people out there that wanted to go back home. That wanted to go back across the Ethiopian Ocean to go back home. Now, according to the Igbo in Africa, what was going on during this time? Wasn't they going through apartheid? Wasn't they going through apartheid, family? This film right here was released in the 1950s. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? This film was released in 1950. Okay, now in 1947 and 46, what was going on? This is right after the Civil War. Who was fighting? Who was civil? And who was barbaric? Who wanted to just be free? And who wanted to preserve barbarism? Was it the Igbo? Let us go on. Listen. And again, free use, as you see it on the screen, free use.
And the laboring class of the slaves, who had little wealth and few privileges.
So you see, there's a differentiation. There's the free more, and there's the enslaved more. Listen at what they call them, Negroes. So that'll show you that they was once called Spanish Jews. Go on, finish listening.
The plantation system in the United States reached its greatest development before the Civil War. By 1860, plantations reached from Virginia to Texas.
Okay, do you remember? I posted up something on my page. What happened in the 1860s? I want y'all, when I get done with this video, to go back and read that information. I want you to read that information, and I want you to teach it to your children, and teach it to whoever willing to hear, but make sure that your children learn about this history. Now I want you to pay attention to what they finna say about this situation here.
On some of these, tobacco was produced.
Remember when I said that our ancestors picked tobacco? That really happened. Do you remember when I said that our ancestors used to pick cotton? That really happened. Do you remember when I told you that our ancestors was blacksmiths? That really happened. Look, in Florida, in Clay Cut, Florida, where I grew up, Haines City, Clay Cut. They were ironsmiths. Around that area where them train tracks was, where they used to put the train tracks together manually. And then when you get locked up in prison, they used to make you go out there and put the train tracks together manually for free. Okay. And do free planting and everything. Pay attention.
On others, sugar was grown.
Remember sugar cane? Where is this located at? What's this area? What's this area? Look up and through here.
On others, cotton was the main crop.
And this is what my grandmother would do. So this is how you would know where your family was at. My grandmother told me that they picked cotton. So this is where my grandmother was at. My grandmother, on my daddy's side, came from Alabama, Union Spring. So if they wasn't in this area, they was dealing with sugar cane.
Whatever the crop, the system of producing was similar. Cheap labor, one crop, and vast tracts of land. These are some of the things we can better understand when we visit one of the old plantation homes of the past. But did this plantation life influence the modern South? Can we find anything left of the plantation system? We might find part of the answer as we look around us in the South today. Here is a scene that tells us part of the story. This plantation home was abandoned during the Civil War. Great changes in the plantation system occurred during the war. The freeing of the slaves and the great financial burden of the war disrupted the economic pattern. Some planters went bankrupt.
So the economic pattern was free labor. Remember Roe v. versus Wade. Okay? Now businesses using a prison when you have slaves in there, they can work for you. And the businesses, they don't pay the slave. What the slave gonna buy? Locked up in a cage. So the slaves found a way to use other items as money. Many of them are innocent of the crimes that they're accused of. Pay attention, fam, and don't ever forget.
And lost possession of their plantations. But the plantation system did not entirely disappear. Some elements of that system did not change. The land, cultivated for generations and still productive.
For what? Generations? So if you read inside of the Bible tell you, I think it was 14, and then that's a generation. They said generations. Do y'all hear this? Generations cultivated. That don't look like nobody that's lazy to me. That don't look like somebody looking for a handout. That look like prisoners. Pay attention.
Remained. The source of labor, great numbers of Negroes, remained. The demand for cotton.
What did they call them? Great number of who? Negroes? Negro comes from Spanish. They were called Spanish Negro Jews. I read y'all the history. Let us go ahead and listen.
Remained, and the growing of cotton continued. So the plantation system, in a smaller and modified way, continued and can be found in the South today. Much of the work is still done by hand. Much of the wealth still comes from one crop, cotton. Most of the workers are Negroes who live on the plantation. Today, the man who owns the plantation is called the landlord.
So he working, he the landlord. See that? And he probably is one of the Negroes to make sure they stay in line. But all of the field work and all of the ironsmithing and all of the herding was done by the Negroes. They just told you. They call this working. They call this working. Make sure these Negroes stand in line. You know what they call them in Africa? A puppet. They pay him to be a good puppet. He the president of the Negroes on the plantation. That's the president. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? He the president, but he in charge. And somebody over him. So the Negroes got to listen at what he said. He master's representative. Whoever else that it may be. That they tell, make sure you make these NIGGERs do what I say here. All right, pay attention.
The men who work the farm are tenants. And so the landlord, the laborers, and the land are still the important parts of the plantation system. Today, this owner has less land than the plantation owner of the past, and he lives in a house that is less pretentious than the great mansions of earlier times. The tenant farmers and their families live on the plantation. Each family has a small house which they rent together with a section of land. A few tenants pay their rent in money, but most tenant farmers on the plantations work their portion of land in return for a share of the crop. And so the tenant farmers, both Negro and white, provide the necessary labor for raising the cotton.
You see how they made sure they put that in there? And so the farmers, most Negro and white, he made sure he put that in there. But the white people was not doing the same labor that the Negro was doing. He already done said it 3 times. Then he turned around. What did the native people say? Huh? What did the native people say? Fork, tone. Fork, tone. Ama Dabaria did a message on this. Fork, tones. Fork, tones. And if I find that video, I will share it on my community tab, Mashpaka. Listen.
What other changes have come to the plantation? The plantation today is not as isolated as it once was. Paved highways link the plantations with towns and cities. The plantation crop can be shipped by railroad or by large trucks. Today, as we look out over the southern countryside, we'll see that plantations are not as plentiful as they once were. Many have been divided up into smaller farms. On this farm, beef cattle are raised. Other farms specialize in producing milk or poultry or grain. We'll find most of these farmers using modern machinery, and we'll find that these same methods of mechanization are affecting the plantation system too. This mechanical cotton picker is one of many different machines that are replacing hand labor.
Now, a Negro created a machine. You see that? To make it easier for them on the plantation. And so now, they don't need the Negro out there no more. So there's no Negroes on the cotton plantation. Negroes done left. And I'm going to tell you something. They did something called lending to family only. And that would secure their land. So what they did is that when Negroes had built up a place, the bank would come in and redline them and all this type of stuff. This is to keep Negroes moving. So you build up something and they move you out. Then you leave out of there and you go to the other place. You build up there, they move you out. They raise up the price and move you out. And I believe Brother Phil was talking about something similar to this, what they doing in Jamaica. How the Jamaicans may charge you this much for a plot of land, a place of for lodging, and then they'll come and overpay it. And then the people in the land get used to it. And then, the people that got the money, and then the locals, like what they say going on in Africa, the locals be like, well, you Americans, Brother Phil made sure to let y'all know. No, that's not American. He said that's them folk doing that. Because if you charging me $5,000 for some land, that's what I'm going to pay for the land. I can't afford to be just paying all this extra money. I'm going to pay you for what you told me was the asking price. But somebody else come and they messing up y'all economy, and then y'all look around and all of the poor people can't afford to live now. So all of y'all rent going up. Let us go on.
Here, the most modern machines are used at every stage of the work: growing, harvesting, and preparing for the next crop. Today, that crop is not always cotton. Some plantations raise more than the traditional one crop. Soybeans, for instance.
Okay, so that's enough of this, fam. That's enough of that. And I want to tell y'all something, and I want you to pay attention. Blood is on the land. Blood is crying out. Do y'all hear me what I say? I said the blood is crying out on the land for recompense, Mashpaka. Before I leave from here, I want y'all to go ahead, and this is not going to be long like it was, like I read all that the other time. I got to preserve my voice. But I'm finna read something to y'all. All right? And last time I didn't see it up there. And brother Marty, let me see if I can add you. I'm gonna see if I can add you. You used to be on my Facebook and always supported me. And on Facebook, they saying they won't let me go live on there for now, bruh. And I thank you for coming. So there was a verse that I had looked up and I had found. Let me go ahead and get back to that. And y'all, I came on here too to tell y'all, you know, that the Tulsa, Oklahoma situation, they denied them. Okay, they denied the reparation in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They denied it. All of them stood together and denied it all together. Now, there's something I want to share with you. I want you to turn your Bible to Habakkuk chapter 2. Habakkuk chapter 2. And we're going to begin at verse 12 and 15. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 12 and 15. And after this, I'm finna get off here. And just like Yahushua told Kepha, put your sword back in your sheath, for vengeance is mine. I will repay, said Yahweh. And I'm going to show you. Sometimes people is making their own light, and I was thinking about that today. You know, Yahweh has the hearts of kings in his hand. And, you know, people is making their own personal decisions to do what they want to do. Shalom to you, Sister Naomi. People made their own decision. They're making their beds, and I pray that everybody in singular formation will make their own salvation sure. If you fall after the crowd, let it read it for you, fam, because I need to rest my voice. But remember, where it say Lord, that's Yahweh. Where it say God, that's Allahayim. Listen, fam.
Habakkuk 2. I will stand upon my watch, and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord answered me and said, Write the vision, and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Behold, His soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Delivered from the power of evil. Thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and hast woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and hast sinned against thy soul. For the stone shall cry out of the wall, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and stablisheth a city by iniquity. Behold, is it not of the Lord of hosts that the people shall labor in the very fire, and the people shall weary themselves for very vanity? For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbour drink, that puttest thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. For the violence of Lebanon shall cover thee, and the spoil of beasts which made them afraid because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. What profiteth the graven image that the maker thereof hath graven it, the molten image, and a teacher of lies, that the maker of his work trusteth therein to make dumb idols? Woe unto him that saith to the wood, Awake, to the dumb stone, Arise, it shall teach. Behold, it is laid over with gold and silver, and there is no breath at all in the midst of it. But the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him.
And I want to say shalom to the hearers and the keepers of the word. Let me speak to y'all, family. Let me see what you said, sister. Shalom. Ya'akwaba, my brother. Tell Valentine I said, hey. Okay, sister, I will. I want to say shalom to you, Marty. Marty TV. Long time, brother. Long time. Hopefully one of these days you'll be able to come up here with me like we used to on Facebook for old time's sake, bro. And I want to say shalom to you again, Sister Malaka. Thank you for coming out. And I try to make it to the prayer that the Mashpachah setting up. Thank you for coming. And to everybody that'll hear this message afterwards, take heed to the word of Yahweh. Take heed to the word of Yahweh. Yasharal, take heed to the word of Yahweh. Take heed. And to the strangers and people of other nation, take heed to the word of Yahweh. Don't seal up yourself in destruction. Take heed to the word of Yahweh. Shalom again to the hearers and the keepers of the word of Allahayim. Amen.